melody.
Okay.
Okay.
Haribol, who is doing Jadvani?
Ramananda.
Take it away, Ramananda.
Om Vishnupada. You can't hear me. Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parikrama.
You just got put on mute, Ramananda.
Good now? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Shri Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitrila Pravishnu Vishnupada Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitrila Pravishnu Vishnupada Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitrila Pravishnu Vishnupada Ashtotra Shat Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. आचार्य के श्री परम गुरुदेव नित्रिला प्रविष्णु विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। जगत गुरु नित्रिला प्रविष्णु विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। महाभागवत श्रील गौर किशोरदास बाबा जी महाराज की जय। सप्तम गोस्वामी सचिदानंद श्री भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौड़ी वेदांत आचार्य श्री बलदेव विद्याभूषण प्रभु की जय। श्री गौड़ी रसाचार्य श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। श्री नरोत्तम श्रीनिवास श्यामानंद प्रभु त्रय की जय। जय श्री कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। व्यास भिन्न श्री वृंदावन दास ठाकुर की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ सर गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री लोकनाथ दास गोस्वामी की जय। श्री भूगर्भ गोस्वामी की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर गोस्वामी राय रामानंद श्री की महिति माधवी देवी गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री अंतरद्वीप मायापुर सीमंत द्वीप गोद्रम द्वीप मध्य द्वीप कोल द्वीप ऋतु द्वीप जन द्वीप मौद्र द्रुम द्वीप रुद्राद्वीपात्मक श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गो गोवर्धन द्वादशवनात्मक श्री ब्रजमंडल की जय। श्री ब्रजमंडल धाम की जय। ब्रजमंडल धाम परिक्रमा कारी भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड जमुना गंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय। जय श्री बहुलाष्टमी की जय। जय श्री कुल देवी भगवती पूर्णमासी देवी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा सुदर्शन चक्र जी की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथ पुरी धाम की जय। भक्ति विघ्न विनाशनकारी श्री नरसिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रवर श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। चारों धाम चारों आचार्य चारि संप्रदाय की जय। आकर मद्राज श्री चैतन्य मठ की जय। श्री केशव जी गौड़ी मठ की जय। श्री रूप सनातन गौड़ी मठ की जय। श्री गोपीनाथ भवन की जय। श्री गिरिधारी गौड़ी मठ की जय। श्री श्री केशव जी गौड़ी मठ कुलदीप धाम की जय। श्री यशोदानंदन भवन की जय। श्री गुरुदेव समाधि मंदिर की जय। जय श्री दामोदर गौड़ी मठ की जय। श्री रमन बिहारी गौड़ी मठ की जय। श्री राधा माधव गौड़ी मठ की जय। गौरवाणी गौड़ी मठ की जय। गंगा माता गौड़ी मठ की जय। श्री भक्ति सुमठ की जय। अन्य शाखा मत समूह की जय। कलियुग पावन त्रिभुवन मंगलकारी गोलोकेर प्रेम धन हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। जुगल नाम हरि कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। मृदंग करताल की जय। जय आनंद कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री भक्ति कमल गोविंद महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति स्वरूप दामोदर महाराज की जय। श्री गौर गोविंद गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति विज्ञान भारती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति वल्लभ तीर्थ गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति कुमुद संत गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति वैभव पुरी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति जीवन जनार्दन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति दैत माधव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति रक्षक श्रीधर गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति श्री रूप सिद्धांति गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्री भक्ति प्रमोदपुरी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। स्वपरिकर जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। वृंदावन वासी भक्त वृंद की जय। नीलाचल वासी भक्त वृंद की जय। नवद्वीप वासी भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर देश वासी भक्त वृंद की जय। जे देशे वैसे गौरांगे रगन की जय। होया छे न होइबे न प्रभुर जत दास की जय। Bhakti Zoom watching Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. On Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube, Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Shri Vraja-mandala Dham Parikrama ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Tarun Prabhu will show the Kirtan on screen, which is Chintamani Moy. The banks of Sri Radha-kunda are made of transcendental desire-fulfilling gems. Nearby there are hundreds and hundreds of beautiful kunjas. The trees and creepers, which are made of coral, are weighty with an abundance of pearl fruits. A small cottage is beautifully situated within the enchanting grove, known as Swananda Sukha Kunja. Oh, when shall I sit there and sing the holy names of Sri Krishna with the desire to attain his service? At that time, the song of the transcendental flute will enter this maidservant's ear. I shall become overwhelmed in ecstasy and forget everything due to the song of Sri Krishna's flute. Saying Radhe, Radhe, the flute will call the name of my worshipful mistress. Hearing that sound, this maidservant will jump up, startled and astonished, wondering how she shall live. Chintamani Mai Radha-kunda Tata Tahe kunja shata shata Prabhala vitru maya tarulata Mukta phale avanata Swananda sukhada kunja manoha Tahate kutira shobhe Boshiya tatha gabo Krishna naam Kabe Krishna dasya lobhe Emona samay murali raga Boshive dasi kane Anande matibo sakala bholibo Shri Krishna Banshira gane Radhe Radhe boli murali dakibe Modiya Ishwari nama Shuniya chamaki uthibe dasi Kemone koribe prana Chintamani Mai Radha-kunda Tata Tahe kunja shata shata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha-kunda Jaya Radha-kunda Radha-kunda Jaya Radha-kunda Jaya Giri-raja Jaya Govardhana Giri-raja Jaya Govardhana Jaya Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavana Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavana Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Shri Radha-kunda ki jai.
Hari Bol, Ramananda Prabhu. Thank you for your beautiful kirtan. I really like that kirtan. Thank you. Didn't realize there was a morning and evening tune. Just shows you how much I have to learn. Hari Bol. Alma Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So before beginning, I'd like to offer my Dandavat Pranams millions of times to the lotus feet of my beloved Diksha Gurudev, Shri Srila Bhakti Vedanta One Goswami Maharaj, to the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, Shri Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and Shri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, and to the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to all our Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Vag, all Vaishnavas, and Vaishnavis, all assembled guests, Dandavat Pranams. So today is, I think, day 9, day 10. I just wrote it down. Can't remember. I think day 10. But certainly very auspicious day. Today we'll celebrate the appearance of Sri Radha-kunda and Sri Syama-kunda, as it is Bahulastami in India. But we are only going to touch on those places briefly. So Maharaj is going to speak on those, Pujapad Chidandi Maharaj is going to speak on those places briefly after he outlines the route for today. Then we're going to take a bus from Vrindavan to Khelanvana and Rama-ghata, where Chidandi Maharaj will speak for half an hour. Then Pujapad Nemi Maharaj will speak at Viharavana and Cira-ghata for half an hour. And then we go back to Chidandi Maharaj, who will speak at Vatsavana and Garuda-Govinda for another half an hour. And that is our proceedings. So it's a very exciting day. Don't be disappointed if you don't hear enough about Radha-kunda and Syama-kunda, because we're going to be visiting those places in a few days and we'll speak more extensively on those places. So beautiful opportunity now to hear something about them, and we'll get to hear more about them latterly. Okay, Maharaj, when you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, Tarunji. Thank you. Thank you. Om Agana Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Prabhajantam Anapetyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Juhava Putreti Tam Mayatayo Tarabobinindustam Sarvabhutam Vridim Munim Anatoshmi. Bhaktya vina aparada lakshay Shiptascha karmari taranga maharye Kripa maitvam sharanam prapana Brinde namaste charana ravindam Vajami radham aravinda netram Smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karana baradram Tatoma manasti katyena kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina iti vignayat radetvam naimam charnantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Astol Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Astol Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I'm offering my prostrated Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of all our illustrious Guru Varga and all the Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord who are assembled here today, and all the Vaishnavis, and anyone who's listening in the future. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhavevacha, patitanam pavnibhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. So as Tarunji was saying, today is another extraordinary day out in the wonderful atmosphere of Vrindavan itself, right out in the fields and the dust and the beautiful trees and the cows, etc. We will touch our consciousnesses to that place today. So just to say a few words about the Bahulastami today, the appearance of Radha-kunda and Syama-kunda. We noted the other day when we were in Bahulavana how that forest stretches up as far as Radha-kunda and Syama-kunda. That's why it's called Bahulastami, because it's named after that illustrious forest in which it's situated. So we know the beautiful pastime of Aristasura, how he was slain heroically by Krishna, and the gopis, they wouldn't be touched or didn't even want to be with Krishna after he had apparently killed a bull. A very beautiful pastime ensued, and Krishna called all the holy rivers of India to come and fill a place where he could purify himself sufficiently so the gopis again would speak with him. And Radhika, when she saw the excellence of that kund, she also wanted a kund herself. And she and her Sakhis, they began to dig a kund. They broke their bangles and they began to dig a kund. But Krishna, he requested that they actually used the hoof print mark of Aristasura. So it was somewhat of an indentation already. So when they excavated the millions of gopis, that beautiful kund, they began to bring the water from Manasi Ganga, but Krishna petitioned Sri Radhika to please allow his waters to fill her kund. And on the very sweet prayers of all those holy rivers, Radhika acquiesced and allowed those rivers to break the banks of Syama-kunda and fill the kund of Radha-kunda. And at that time, Krishna declared, this place of Radha-kunda will be that most holy place in all of Vrindavan. And there are so many prayers that are honoring the place of Radha-kunda. Radha-kunda is the topmost place in the universe to pray, to have bhajan, to reside on the banks of Radha-kunda, and to absorb the immensity of that powerful potency that resides there. But we will discuss all of these things next week when we visit there directly. So I won't linger there, but today we should think about Radha-kunda and Syama-kunda and its immense potency. So now, oh yes, so now we're going to see some of the geography of where we're traveling today. So if Tarunji would like to put up the map first, and then we'll see a video after this. If you'd like to put up that map, Tarunji, with the microscope.
Me putting up the map today?
I think so, yes.
Okay, I've got to locate where it's been sent to me. I'm really sorry, I didn't realize it was me today.
Is Manjulali there?
Um,
If Manjulali is there, she can put it up.
No, I don't think she is. Today's map, I see. Okay. Don't worry, it will just take me a moment, Maharaj. I'm really sorry about this.
So in the meantime, we're climbing on our buses and we're going for quite a long bus journey. Yesterday, we walked through the beautiful fields of Bailvan, But today we're going to go along the main road north. Our journey will be north towards Delhi route. So here, if you want to expand that map with the microscope on it, you can see where we are in relationship to Vrindavan. You can get your cursor there, Tarun, and give us a driving direction.
Where are we starting?
We're starting from home, which is Vrindavan.
Vrindavan is here.
Yes. And now we're going to drive out the main trunk road. That's right. Beautiful. You got the right way. Yes. Through Chatika. And then we're going to come through Chatta. And then we're going to get to, then we're going to take a right here. That's it. And we're going out to Khelanvana on the banks of the Yamuna. And we'll start there. And then we're going to go further to Rama-ghata, which is higher up above. Keep back on the dotted line now. Yes, you're cutting across the fields, a bit bumpy. Okay, that way. Yes, okay. And then drive up that way. Yes, and then we drive to Rama-ghata. So these two places initially, and then we're going to, now we'll go to the other map so we can see it more detail. But do you understand where we are in perspective, everybody, to Vrindavan? Is that other map gone?
The other map is here, Maharaj.
Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go.
Let me just make it.
Okay, so you can see from this map also, you see where Jamuna is. And we've covered actually all of the forests on the eastern banks of the Jamuna. We did drive through Lohavan, but we didn't mention it as we drove through. So we've actually been to the 5 principal forests on the eastern side. So now we're starting our journey through the western forests. So we see a place which is circled in red there called Cira-ghata. So we're coming from Vrindavan and we come up through Chatikara and we've come through Chatta and we come to Cira-ghata, and then there's Rama-ghata and Khelanvana, which is right close by where it says Cira-ghata. And then we're going to walk around to Cira-ghata. That's right, you've got the cursor right on Cira-ghata. Yes, yes. And then generally the devotees take a bath in the Jamuna at that place. And then we're going to come back along a road beside the Jamuna. It's a very small, narrow road. And we'll come to Vatsavana. It's not on this map, Tarun, but you can just walk along the bank of the Jamuna there with your cursor. Yes, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Very good, very good. You're gonna, yes, and then we'll come to Vatsavana and Garuda-Govinda. So that circle is going to be our Parikrama today. I hope all the devotees can tune into that without any sort of confusion. You can all see that. So basically, we're doing the western forests, but it's the ones that are closest to the Jamuna. And then when we go to Govardhan, we'll do the more further western ones. Okay, so that'll be our journey for today. Now we have a very, okay.
So we like coming up here, Maharaj, and then going around like that.
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. We're actually going to Cira-ghata, which is above there. Yes, 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 you got it. And then we're going to come down back again through that. The whole journey will take us approximately 40 minutes traveling to reach from Vrindavan to Cira-ghata. It's not such a long journey. And then we're going to come back down slowly. It's a reasonably long day because we're covering 6 different principal pastime places. So it's a good, solid day today of Parikrama. So I hope you're all comfortable there and ready for the journey. So now, Tarunji, we've got a very beautiful video to show these beautiful places if you want to put that up. Yes. Have you got that?
Yes. Yeah, it's just downloading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. just opening.
This is going to start off with Ram-ghata. It's the first place in this video. And then we're going to see Cira-ghata. And then we're going to see Vatsavana at the end and Garuda-Govinda. These are the, this is the order in this video. So this is Ram-ghata. Okay. Jai, beautiful.
Jai. Oh, you're on mute, Maharaj. How did that happen? Maharaj, we can't hear you. There we go.
Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. So that was a very beautiful video offered by Janardhan Prabhu from Seattle. Very kind of him to manifest that for us. So we saw at the beginning of there Ram-ghata, but there's some beautiful photographs also there. You have Tarun, you have some photographs of Khelanvana, a couple of pictures there. It's the forest of Khelanvana, just the picture. I can speak over the top of it.
getting it up now, Maharaj. Okay.
So this is a part of this beautiful ancient forest of Khelanvana, which is near Cira-ghata. So this is where we've come. We just stop here quite briefly. And Kela means like playful pastimes. Okay, Tarunji, that'll be good. Thank you. Kela means pastimes principally. So Krishna and the Sakas, they would come with their thousands and thousands of cows, and they would play in this beautiful forest. And also Krishna would play with the gopis and Radhika in this forest. And a pastime is described here when Nanda Baba and Rishabhanu Maharaj were camping in this forest. Because as I said previously, Nanda Baba and his whole family would travel around Braj at different times. I described in one time how they traveled from Gokul out to Nandagaon and Varshana. But at a different time, they also traveled to this forest and they resided here for some time. And at that time, Krishna, he was aware that there was much negative talk about Radhika's chastity. Jyotila and Kotila had been accusing Radhika of being with Krishna. And they had put this mood out. So Krishna was very unhappy about this, to hear this, knowing that Radhika is the most supremely chaste personality in the universe, in existence. So Krishna, he manifested a pastime of being sick, being very sick, couldn't even get up. Mother Yashoda, she ran, she got many Vaidyas, many doctors came, and they took his pulse and they examined him and so on. They gave all kinds of medicinal herbs and so on, but nothing whatsoever could revive him. And then Purnamasi, hearing about this, she came immediately to Mother Yashoda and she examined Krishna and she told Krishna that the only way, or told Mother Yashoda, the only way to revive Krishna back to full health was to find a chaste lady who could carry a pot of water with thousands of holes in it from the Jamuna. And when Krishna had abhishek of that water, then he would be completely revived. So this seems like an impossible task, yet Purnamasi, she's Yogamaya, and all the residents of Braj, they know that. So Yogamaya can say anything of this nature. So immediately, those two ladies, Jyotila and Kotila, who were always advocating themselves as being the most chaste ladies of Braj, Mother Yashoda requested them both to go and fill this pot of water from the Jamuna, which was full of holes. So Jyotila first went, and of course, all the water immediately fell out of the pot, and Jyotila became very embarrassed. And then she gave the pot to her daughter, Kotila, and the same thing happened again. And both of them just slunk away back to their houses. They couldn't remain. They couldn't face the embarrassment of the Brijbasis, knowing that they were not the most chaste ladies. And then Purnamasi, she suggested you should ask Radhika to do this. So they requested Radhika, and she refused point blank to perform such a task. And again, they fervently requested her to please do this. And then finally, Radhika consented, and she went to the bank of the Yamuna, and she filled the pot with water. Not a single drop escaped the pot. And she carefully brought it back to Purnamasi, who performed a beautiful abhishek of Krishna in that condition of his sickness. And immediately, Krishna was revived. So this, in the eyes of all the Brijbasis, especially Jyotila and Kotila, it would silence them. It would silence any gossip talk about Sri Radhika's chastity forever, because forever this pastime would always be sung in Vrindavan, proclaiming the total chastity of Radhika, that she could pick a pot of water out of the Jamuna, which was full of holes like a sieve, and yet not a single drop escaped. So Radhika is always proclaimed as the most chaste lady in Braj because of this beautiful pastime. So this is one of the many pastimes that took place here at Khelanvana. There are so many abundant pastimes in the cowherd fields, especially with Balaram and Krishna, when they would play remarkable games here. So this is the mood that we come to this beautiful forest, and we hear of these playful exchanges between Krishna and the Sakhas, and between also Krishna and the gopis. So this is the pastime that we always hear in Khelanvana. So this is just a brief stop on our journey today. So now we're going to proceed back on the bus, and we're going to go a few miles very close by to Rama-ghata. We're going to park the buses and we're going to walk across the fields, because Rama-ghata is situated right on the bank of the Jamuna. So it's an extremely beautiful walk through the landscape of Vrindavan. And Rama-ghata is situated, you have a picture there, Tarun? Yes, there's another picture there, Tarun. Also, yes, this picture. You see this, the second one. No, not that one, the other one. Where did it go? Yes, this one. You see, it's sort of situated in a somewhat solitary place. So we have to walk across these fields to get to it. But it's incredibly beautiful. Very often, it's quite warm in the morning still, but when we come under the shade of these huge trees, it's so cool and so attractive place to be. So here, you can go to the next one now.
You're on mute, Maharaj, again.
It's okay, I'm out. So the second picture, Tarun? Yes, so this is Srila Gurudev, I think. He's here giving Hari-kata. Oh, we just see the devotees here. Yes, so we all assemble under this huge Vamsivat, and we hear the very special kata of this place, Rama-ghata. This is where Balaram Dev, when he was in Dwarka, he very much wanted to relieve the residents in Vrindavan of their practically intolerable separation. They were petitioning Krishna to please come back to Vrindavan, even just for a few days. Please come back to Vrindavan. But Krishna was adamant that he would not go back, and Srila Gurudev explains very clearly why he doesn't return, why he can't return to Vrindavan, just even briefly. Krishna leaves Vrindavan. You can perhaps take that off now, Tarun. Krishna leaves Vrindavan for 100 years. And why shouldn't he just go back and pay a visit? Subhadra is also begging Krishna to please come back, because they are hearing regularly. There's messengers, Srila Jiva Goswami describes, running constantly, daily, between Vrindavan and Dwarka, where Krishna is. The Brijbasis are actually completely in touch with Krishna through these messages, but they want his direct darshan. But Srila Gurudev explains that if Krishna went back, how would it be possible for the gopis in particular, again, to tolerate separation after meeting? If he met them just for a few days, this would not be enough. And he gives the beautiful example, very graphic example, of a frying pan or a tava that you make the chapatis on. When it becomes red hot, if you just put a few drops of water on it, it'll hiss very much. it won't cool it down, or it won't have any effect on it. You actually have to submerge it fully in the water for all the heat to go out of it. So similarly with the hearts of the gopis, they have to be submerged in a continual association with Krishna. They can't just be momentarily meeting with Krishna and then Krishna leaving again. This wouldn't be. This would practically kill the gopis. They would leave their lives. So Balaram, he discusses with Subhadra and Krishna, and it's decided, yes, he will go alone to Vrindavan to pacify the Brijbasis. So he leaves and he arrives in Vrindavan, and he remains there for the next 2-3 months. He's staying in Vrindavan, pacifying the residents there, the Brijbasis. And during this time, Balaram, he has his own group of gopis. Just as Krishna has his group of gopis, Balaram also is such an attractive personality. He has hundreds and thousands of the most beautiful divine gopis as his consorts. So he performs Ras Lila at this very place of Rama-ghata, where we are now. This is where we have come to remember the beautiful Ras Lila that Ram performed with his own gopis here. And during that Ras Lila, Srila Gurudev explains that it includes the drinking of honey mead. It includes gambling. It includes water sports. It includes so many different activities, not just simply the actual dance of the Ras Lila pastime, but many activities. So Balaram, after he's danced with the gopis in such a beautiful, exceptional way, then he goes and reclines in the forest close by. And Varuni Devi, she manifests beautiful oozing honey from the trees, which is an intoxicating taste. And all the gopis and Balaram, they begin to drink this incredible Varuna honey mead. It's like wine, honey wine. So they're drinking this and becoming somewhat intoxicated. And in that condition, Balaram, he wants to bathe in the Jamuna. So he calls Jamuna to come close so that he and his beloved gopis can bathe in the waters of Jamuna. But Jamuna, she doesn't come. At this point, she doesn't come. It's described, in fact, somebody may ask the question, well, if Jamuna is Vishaka Devi, who she is in Vrindavan, then how is Balaram calling for her to come like this? But Srila Gurudev describes that Jamuna Devi, at this particular point, which is in the northern area, the northern section of Braj, is not Vishaka Devi. This is Kalindi, one of the queens of Dwarka. So she considers that Baladev is in too much of an intoxicated state and she ignores him. And Baladev becomes very angry with this. And there's the famous pastime of when he picks up his club and he begins to drag her directly towards him. And we can see here today in Rama-ghata, just around the corner from where we saw in that beautiful, those trees, there's a place right next door where you can actually see these like cavities in the ground where Baladev, he dragged Jamuna Devi. And as soon as Jamuna Devi was realizing she was being dragged in this way, she immediately ran to Baladev and piteously begged him to please desist, and she would come, and she provided all the necessity for his millions of gopis to take bath there in the Jamuna. So this pastime we always hear at this place. Sometimes people become confused. They think, was Balaram performing Ras with Krishna's gopis? And there's sometimes a discussion about this, but Gurudev, he declares conclusively, no, these are Balaram's personal gopis. And amongst these gopis, interestingly enough, is a particular gopi called Purnananda. Purnananda in Mahaprabhu's Leela is Gadadhar Das. There's Gadadhar Pandit and there's Gadadhar Das. They're both totally different personalities. Gadadhar Pandit, we know, is Srimati Radhika, and Gadadhar Das is described as being the opulence of Sri Radha in the form of a Saki called Chandrakanti. This is this personality in Gaura Leela. And also there is this personality who is one of Baladev's or one of Nityananda's Sakis, or one of Baladev's Sakis, called Purnananda. So it's wonderful to appreciate that when Nityananda is performing his pastimes here in Gaura-mandala, that Gadadhar Das is with him, with all the other Dwadasa Gopals, with the 12 other Gopals of Nityananda. There is Gadadhar Das there. And while these incredible feats are being performed by the 12 Gopals, the 12 friends of Nityananda, they lift trees and they jump down from trees. They do incredibly heroic acts with Nityananda Prabhu, who's performing these pastimes. And Gadadhar Das is there simultaneously, and he's wandering around with all these boisterous followers of Nityananda, but he has a clay mudka, a clay pot under his arm, and he's calling out, would anyone like some yogurt? In a mood of a gopi. So this is Gadadhar Das, who is one of these gopis dancing with Balaram at Rama-ghata. And that connects us with Gaura-mandala. Always we must be appreciating that Mahaprabhu is the revealer of Vrindavan. When we take shelter of Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu's associates, then we become eligible to enter into the meditation of these pastimes in Vrindavan. So remembering these pastimes, especially this particular personality, Gadadhar Das, and he's very much prominent amongst all the parikars of Nityananda, as well, of course, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was in Puri for some time, and there's an extensive description of his various pastimes. But for the devotees today to appreciate being here in Rama-ghata with the principal gopis, all the gopis of Balaram, and appreciating the magnitude of that Ras Leela that was performed by him at that time, and this pastime of him dragging the Jamuna to him he was in an intoxicated state. So this is the pastime that we hear. This is the beautiful guitar, and especially the appreciation of how to connect it with Gaura-mandala. If we are always appreciating that it is by the mercy of Mahaprabhu alone, practically, that any of us has the eligibility to enter Vrindavan Dham. And by following the process that he has given to us in this age of taking shelter of the holy name, then we can develop the adhikar to sit in these most holiest of places and remember these very, very sweet and sacred pastimes. So this is Ram-ghata, and we remember the beautiful pastimes of Lord Ram and the gopis. So Balaram only stays here for 2 months, and then he returns. And then, of course, the gopis become so much in moods of separation, and yet somehow they're able to tolerate. So this is the pastime that Srila Gurudev tells us here. So now we're going to get back on our buses. We're going to walk back across the fields again and return to our buses and go to Cira-ghata. and Viharavana, where our dear Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj will describe the pastimes of these two places. So this is Khelanvana and Rama-ghata, where we have come today. So Rama-ghata ki jai, Khelanvana ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.
Hey, Bo. Oh, sorry, I was just preempting Yashoda to ask a question, but he didn't. Thank you for your beautiful guitar. This is again one of the places I didn't manage to visit because I was sick, but I didn't realize this was a place that the Parikrama party went to, Rama-ghata, where I didn't realize, like, because I've heard about these pastimes, but I didn't realize and put two and two together and think, oh, there's a place where this happens and where Baladev performs Ras Leela, and so it's really nice to hear. And also I kind of feel like where it is because we've done the map now. Even when I was in Vrindavan, I would look vaguely, but now I feel like I really know, oh, it's happening here. And yeah, so thank you so much, Maharaj. I feel like more absorbed and more familiar.
And to connect it also with Mahaprabhu, Goradam, just to have that appreciation simultaneously to Krishna Lila, because they're non-different, and to have that sense.
It's very important to myself. Thank you, Maharaj. Okay, the next places we're going to are Viharavana and Cira-ghata with Pujapad Nemi Maharaj. We have two pictures of Viharavana and Viharavana, and then a picture of Cira-ghata. So if you just want to prompt me, Maharaj, like when to put them up and when to take them down, that would be great. You should be able to unmute now, Maharaj. Oh, try again. Now you're, oh, sorry, something's gone wrong. Ask to unmute. Yes, very well.
Hare Krishna. Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjanashlakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namam Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane. Namam Vishnupadaya Gaura Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Iti Namane. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhabhyevacha Putitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First place we're visiting, Viharavana. So you have a picture of this, Taranji? So there's on the top, on my screen anyway, top left, there's Viharavana, beautifully made up. And then Viharavana Kunja. So Viharavana is special because it's a walled garden, a big garden. I mean, it's not a small garden. It's a walled territory, and the original, it's got the original mood. These haven't been cut down to make fields for rice. Many of the forests have been cut down. There's not many places where the forests are left in such like a pristine condition. So we can really appreciate the mood in Bandiyavan also. I remember being with Srila Gurudev in Viharavana, and he was pointing out, he's saying, this is Kunja. This is right, 96. And also here along the path, there's a tamal tree, and there's a beautiful golden creeper growing up the tamal tree like Radha and Krishna. So, and then, okay, thanks. So Srila Gurudev hasn't, it's really coming here, we can absorb the mood of the place. Srila Gurudev says in the Parikrama book that if we come here, we'll remember Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So it's a little difficult for us here. We see one or two pictures. We can just understand here, Srila Gurudev pointed out that there are pairs of Tamal and Kadamba trees. And it's one of the few places in Braj where we see that still. Tamal's Krishna, Kadamba, Srimati Radhika. So remembering their beautiful pastimes, especially Radha and Krishna's pastimes, so the cowherd girls, gopis. And then going back, sometimes we used to walk through, sometimes the coaches used to drive through, but the best thing is to walk through. It's a little, I don't know, half a mile, something like that, through between all the trees and like that, just getting some atmosphere. So going back into the buses, and then we come to Cira-ghata. And Cira-ghata is like super amazing place. We've already seen some pictures there. It's on the bank of Yamuna, and the bank is very, very wide. You could perform Rasa Leela. They could perform Rasa Leela there. And there's one tree there, right on the edge. There's the bank is kind of elevated there. And right on the edge, you can barely get around the tree. So this is Cira-ghata, the tree at Cira-ghata. I don't know whether it's the original tree that Krishna climbed with the gopis' clothes. Anyway, it's in that place. And then just close, there's a temple, small temple to Katyayani. So here, this is the place where Krishna stole the clothes of the unmarried gopis. So it's obviously a sensitive pastime. I just want to, at the end of this pastime, Krishna gives 3 verses, and I'd just like to, oh, saintly girls, I understand that your real motive in this austerity has been to worship me. That intent of yours is approved by me, and indeed, it must come to pass. The desire of those who fix their minds on me does not lead to material desire for sense gratification, just as barley corns burned by the sun and then cooked can no longer grow into new sprouts. Go now, girls, and return to Vraj. Your desire is fulfilled, for in my company you will enjoy the coming nights. After all, this was the purpose of your vow, to worship Goddess Katyayani, O pure-hearted ones. So Krishna is saying to the gopis that there's no possibility that you have become infected by material desires by fixing your minds on me. That's on the one side. And then in one of these verses, Krishna is called Yogeshwareshwara. Yogeshwara means the controller of yogic powers, and Yogeshwareshwara means he's the controller of the control of yogic powers. And Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that the significance there is that Krishna is completely devoid of any material desire whatsoever. So this pastime is enacted totally on the spiritual transcendental platform. But it's a little difficult for us to appreciate in that mood, for me. I'll put it, maybe it's okay for everybody else, but for me anyway, because of previous impressions. So let's go to the beginning. During the month after Kartik, actually, that's Kachayani Brat, which Srila Gurudev said is observed only by perfected devotees. So in that month, the unmarried gopis, headed by Dhanya, or for example, Dhanya, they decided to perform austerities, and by those austerities, they would invite the mercy, they would worship Kachayani. So these are very austere. Not all the gopis at that time were unmarried. This is for the younger devotees. Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, they were already married. But these are unmarried devotees who have not yet got husbands. But they're in Purvarag. Purvarag means that they've seen Krishna and they want to associate with Krishna. Not only they want to associate with Krishna, but they want to please him. So their form, transcendental form, is an expression of their transcendental desire to please Krishna with all of their qualities, body, mind, and soul, and there's no difference between those for them. So there it's described that they decide to perform these austerities. Kavi Karnapur has given a beautiful description how they come out early in the morning, their parents discouraging them. Don't, you're too young, you can't perform these difficult austerities. They were eating havishan once a day, unspiced khichdi, and that's all, just once a day. And then bathing in the Yamuna, and they worshipped Kachayani. So early in the morning, they called each other out. They were dressed in beautiful light pink clothes, and they held hands, chilly. And they held hands and ran towards the Yamuna all together. So they were cooperating in this. This is extraordinary. They're praying that Krishna can be their husband, but they're cooperating. Very extraordinary. So when they got to Yamuna, they all have auspicious articles, and then they had a discussion. So are we going to worship individually, Kachayani, or are we going to all worship together? So they decided actually it'll be more auspicious. We should all worship together. We'll put all of our articles and we'll make one murti of Kachayani from sand. And we'll worship this murti. So they made beautiful murti of Kachayani. And then they chanted mantra for bringing the murti to life. Then they were offering their articles and they're chanting. Excuse me a minute. Kachayani Mahamaye Mahayogin Yadhishari Nandago Pasutang Devi Patingme Kurute Namaha. So with this mantra, O Goddess Kachayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. So they're all chanting this mantra. Whom are they worshipping actually? Conventionally, who are the gopis? They're actually Krishna's internal potency from the spiritual world or in the spiritual world. And to perform pastimes, they've come to the material world. Now, in the spiritual world, there are no husbands. Sometimes, in order to increase Krishna's eagerness, they may say, oh, I belong to somebody else, I cannot associate with you. And that mood of belonging to somebody else, when they come to this world, it takes the form of so-called husbands, who are not really husbands at all. the cultural context that they're in is that they are the most chaste, definitely the most chaste in the universe. And they're imprinted with this, whether by culture, whether by Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya makes it extremely difficult for them to transgress the social codes of chastity and modesty. So, but still, they have this mood that by all means, I want Krishna as my husband. And what do they mean by husband? They're praying to Katyayani that please you make this arrangement. Katyayani says, well, we'll arrange that your parents will make these arrangements. No. I don't want to depend on my parents. I can't wait. It's very, very urgent. I want it immediately. Anyway, Krishna hasn't taken Brahminical initiation yet, so he's not ready for marriage. So let's just do it Gandharva way, without consent of the parents. So Katyayani, she can object that, oh, this is not good. Oh, you're thinking of Krishna as your husband. How can I fulfill this desire, even without your parents knowing? So the gopis, they say, no, you are. Now they're telling her that you are Mahamaya, the supreme enchantress. But actually, Katyayani is Yogamaya. And it's just like, for example, Sri Rupa Goswami, he's worshipping Yogamaya. In Govindaji temple, there's a small temple to the side, and you go down the staircase, and there's a tiny little chamber where Sri Rupa Goswami is worshipping Yogamaya, sitting on a lion, tiger, with many arms, and he's worshipping her. And I heard that Brinda Devi in Kamivan is also that same form, but we only see her face. So they're praying actually to Yogamaya. Although conventionally, they worship Durga. But that Durga, there's two Durgas. The Durga is also Yogamaya. So they're praying. Then this Nanda Gopasatang Devi, it sounds as though they're addressing Devi, means the goddess. But in a tricky way, they're saying, now actually this Devi means divinity. Divinity and deviety. Divinity means he's playing, Krishna's playing, and deviety means he's causing other people to play. So I want Krishna to be my husband. I want to have this very close and intimate association with him, and I don't even care if I'm married to somebody else. So this is their mood. And all have the same mood. All have the same mood. They may externally get married to other husbands, but they all have the same mood. Then they're offering, and with each of the offerings that they're making, they're praying to the goddess. So this is actually the mood in Arti. We're offering articles, but some corresponding boon is required. So they're saying, oh, we're offering you this foot wash, padya. So in sequence, just they're offering. So we're offering you this foot wash, padya. So what do we want? We want that you please cool off our burning breasts with the water from Krishna's feet. And we're worshipping you with this argya. So argya is a beautiful drink for worshipable personalities. So please give us the association of Krishna, because he's Maha-argya. He's the most worshipable. So like this, all of the articles they're offering, each of them is a symbol or representation of their desire to associate with Krishna in various ways. Like we're offering beautiful, beautiful prasad, these nice, sweet dishes. And we want for you to taste, and we want to taste Krishna also. So with these, Srila Kavikarnapur has described this in Sri Ananda Vrindavan Champu. The whole book is very like voluptuous and transcendentally sensuous and sensual. So he's describing in a very, very beautiful way. Then they were performing this for a whole month. And during that month, their faith increased, and they could feel Katyayani is encouraging them. And the worship, they're becoming more expert, entering more and more deeply into the worship. And all the time becoming fixed and fixed and fixed and fixed on Krishna. So like I said, we have to bear in mind, and it's difficult for me at least, that their fixation on Krishna, even though it seems to be erotic, it is erotic, but it's not erotic in a material way. And what spiritual eroticism is, very difficult to understand for those who are on the material platform. When they, towards the end, they felt that Katyayani has come into their hearts. And Katyayani is saying, I'm very pleased with your worship. Be assured that what you have prayed for will certainly come to pass. So they became very, very happy. Then the day after, so these are all unmarried gopis. Srimati Radhika is not there. She doesn't have to. She's married already, so-called. For example, and the other older gopis. This is young gopis. So on the day after they finished their vow, then they decide, okay, we'll have a celebration now. And we'll all go and play in the river. And we'll invite the other gopis as well. And especially they invited Srimati Radhika because they're young and she's older and so beautiful and so qualified and so loving. And they have extreme affection for her. So all the gopis, they go down. And this time it's not so early in the morning. Previously, they're going down and early in the morning, the sun is barely rising. They're taking bath in the river, taking bath in Yamuna, and then coming out and drying themselves with towels and dressing themselves. But now this is after the sun's come up, it's warmer. So they all come down and there's a particular place for ladies to bathe. Men would not come there. And they all just undress completely and they jump into the river together and they're playing and associating with each other in that way. So nobody had announced to Krishna that all this was going on. But Krishna knew because he's in everybody's hearts. So he went that morning with some young kids, literally like 2 or 3 years old. And while the gopis are in the water, so he picked up all of their clothes and climbed into a tree. And he's laughing. And then when it's time for the gopis to come out, oh, well, our clothes have gone. And they're looking, they can't understand what's happened to our clothes. Doesn't seem to be any footprints. There's nobody around. They're really astounded. This is really extraordinary. And then, but Krishna's high up in the tree. So he laughs and he says, oh, I found a lot of clothes up here. Do they belong to anybody else? Any of you? And the gopis are saying, oh, you have to give those clothes back. They're our clothes. And then Krishna is beginning to tease them. He says, well, I don't know if they're your clothes or not. I'm not sure. They could be anybody's. They could be, no. We're the only ones who wander around here. And Krishna said, no, why think that you're the only ones? They could belong to anybody else. And then he starts teasing them again. He says, actually, I think that these belong to the demigoddesses. They're not your clothes at all. And the gopis, they're up to their necks in the water, and it's chilly. The water's really chilly. They're getting colder. So then they begin pleading with him. Oh, please, you're moral. You're the son of Nanda Baba. Everybody loves you. So please, just let us have our clothes back. Krishna, he's being very compassionate to the gopis. So as I said, they come down, they're imprinted with this intense chastity, modesty, piety. In other words, they're imprinted with the impressions of being the most pious, chaste ladies in the universe. And Krishna wants them to step out of that in order to associate with him. In other words, he wants to bring them to another level of service to him, where they actually discard all these social restrictions. Not all. That will come later at the time of the rasa dance. So he's continuing to tease them, and they're continuing to plead with them. And in the end, they say, look, you're the son of Nanda Baba, we're your servants. So Krishna says, okay, if you're my servants, then you should do what I tell you. So you should come and take your clothes. I'll give you them clothes. So then they begin to joke amongst each other, because actually, what are they performing this austerity for? It's to have Krishna's association as husband, lover, means beloved. And here Krishna's come. I don't know if this is the first time they had the chance to associate with Krishna, but he's coming and giving the opportunity, because a lady can never be naked in front of anyone other than her husband. Wow. We're not accustomed to that, but in Vedic society, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says they'd rather die than do that. It'd be worse than death, actually. Difficult maybe for us to understand. So they begin joking with each other that, well, maybe we should. I mean, maybe some other men will come, and that'd be terrible. So perhaps we should give up our patience and we should just do what he says and come collect the clothes. So bit by bit, they're talking with each other, joking with each other, and Krishna's calling them. And gradually the attraction to come towards Krishna becomes stronger than their modesty and shyness to remain in the water. So after some time, they decide to come, and they begin to come out of the water. And then when the water's coming up to their waists, then they're hesitating again. So they come out to Krishna, and they're arranging their hair and their hands to cover themselves modestly. And then Krishna, he says, oh, or he thinks, no, he tells them that actually I have another test. And this is, he thinks, oh, the gopis have done something that's very difficult for anyone. So the girls are standing there without any clothes in front of him. But he says there remains something even more difficult, and I wonder if they can do it. Now let me test the power of their love. This is Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. So then he smiles affectionately, and he says, oh, gopis, you've said that you're my servants and that you will follow my words. Now I am going to test you. If you come out of the water and stand before me, I will give you your clothing along with my body, mind, and soul. Very powerful statement, that if you pass this test that I'm going to give you, I will give you your clothes back, certainly, but I'll give you myself totally. I will surrender to you completely. Because why? Because you've surrendered to me. So then he tells them that, you know, there's a big problem. You've been bathing naked in the river, but this is an offense. And to counteract your sin, you're going to have to offer obeisances. And then you can take back your lower garment. Then you can get back your garments. So the gopis said, well, this is local custom. You know, we always do that. Krishna said, no. Bathing, that's one thing. You may bathe without any clothes on. But performing vows, this is not good. It's an offense. So then the gopis are thinking, oh, no. We've performed this whole month austerity, and Krishna's saying that we've committed an offense, that when there's no fruit from this. So then they're faced with this choice. Well, we can do as he says, but what was the purpose of our austerities anyway? It was to associate with Krishna like our beloved. So then they begin offering obeisances with their hands folded below their waists, very modestly. And Krishna says, no. Both hands, and you have to offer obeisances with both hands above your head. So the gopis completely compliant. They offered obeisances. So Krishna said that his point was this: don't be afraid. He said, don't worry, you'll get the fruits. Gargamuni has said, the Shastras say that all women are servants of Narayan. And Gargamuni has also said that I'm similar to Narayan in qualities. So I'm now your Narayan. If you offer obeisances to me now, then you'll completely nullify your offense. What he's really saying is that if you offer yourselves completely to me, I am your worshipable personality, then everything will be, all the results that you wanted from your austerities, you will, I promise you, you will achieve that, you will receive that. So the gopis, in complete simplicity, in order to, as they're thinking, to nullify their offenses, they're doing this very difficult thing, presenting themselves completely without any covering to Krishna as they're worshipable. But they're not worshiping him in awe and reverence at all. So it's a very deep pastime. And then Krishna, with great affection, he gave them all their clothes back, they dressed themselves up, and then they're still feeling very shy. And so even though gopis, he cheated them, deprived them of their modesty, ridiculed them, he made them act like toy dolls. And although they'd stolen their clothing, they didn't feel at all inimical. Instead, they were really joyful to have this opportunity to associate with their beloved. Although there was no physical contact, they felt that Krishna had embraced them. Krishna had, as they had given themselves, body, mind, and soul, to Krishna, so Krishna had also given himself body, mind, and soul. And he promised them, like those verses which I quoted before, he said that you fixed your minds on me, it will not attract you to material activities or material desires. And I promise you that because you've so faithfully carried out these vows and you faithfully offered yourselves to me, I promise you that definitely those nights, we will enjoy those nights. And then that ties up to rasa dance later on. So this is this pastime, and please forgive me if I've disturbed. It's a very sensitive pastime. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadurvasya kripasin nidevacha puridanam bhavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Getting your shoulder waving.
Haribo, your shoulder.
Tarun's taken away any power I have to unmute myself, so
Okay.
I have to surrender to in Zoom, like I'm mirroring the gopi surrendering.
He's a Supreme Lord. He's taken away your power of speech.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
I've given you co-host.
Oh, thanks, Tarun.
Boon.
You're very kind, very merciful. Maharaj, that was incredibly absorbing, and don't worry, it wasn't disturbing at all. It was amazing. And I do have a few questions, which I hope will be helpful to everyone. In Virahavan, is there an actual pastime in Virahavan we can meditate?
It's not Virahavan, it's Viharavana.
Oh, there's no R, it's V-I-H-A.
Viraha means separation. Vihar means pastimes.
So it's Viha.
Yeah, I don't know of any particular pastime, and in the Parikrama book, it doesn't mention any particular pastime. So I'm at a loss there.
No problem. Could you just, I've never really fully understood the issue about doing that, not very good at pronouncing these
Katyayani.
Katyayani Vrat. Now, my understanding is Gurudev said we should not partake in that Vrat. What's the Siddhanta behind that?
It's a Vrat for perfected devotees, Vaishnavas, they can perform that Vrat. But we're not perfect. I'm not perfected. If I mean, supposing that I'm as the gopis did, perform a Vrat to get Krishna as my pati or my upapati, is not a good idea for me.
Got it. Understood.
Some devotees in Vrindavan, they at the time of Katyayani Vrat, they have quite an elaborate procedure there, but whether they're actually praying like that or whether they're rather using that particular time, for example, performing parikrama every day, reciting huge number of prayers and like that.
Yeah, it's kind of overstepping our mark, really, isn't it? It's about being presumptuous, given that I'm not in that place of qualification.
It may be, and I don't know, it may be that those particular devotees are not actually performing Kachani Vrat as the gopis are performing, but they're using that opportunity to engage in more devotion.
Okay.
It may be like that.
Makes sense. You mentioned about the unmarried gopis headed by, and I didn't catch the name of the gopi.
Dhanya.
Dhanya. Great, thank you. And yeah, you had this lovely description of how they want to play with Krishna, and at the same time they're completely okay with him being married to others. And I think you said Devati. You used two words. What were they?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives Divyati, they're saying Devi, Nanda Gopa Sutang Devi. So it ostensibly, it sounds as though Devi is addressing Kachayani because she's a goddess. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, with his, consummate scholarship, and he's very playful.
Yeah.
So he says here, Devi can mean Divyati, which means he's playing, Krishna's playing, and Devyati means he's causing others to play.
Okay. Thank you. And you kind of answered this question just after I had it as a question, but I didn't get the author. You were talking about how it was very beautiful, how the articles correspond to a particular boon that they're looking for in return. And you said it was in Sri Ananda Dham Champu, right?
Ananda Brindavan Champu.
Ananda Vrindavan Champu, yeah.
By Kavi Kanapur. And it's another level. It's very, very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not so kind of overtly erotic in one sense, but it's the whole thing right through, descriptions of Vrindavan, very kind of voluptuous and sensual in a spiritual way. It's amazing.
Is there a translation you can recommend, or what's?
I just have one. I mean, I've got a digital. There's a hard copy I know available. I don't know who translated it, but one of the Bahulastami or someone like that. And I have a digital copy.
Okay, great. And in this pastime, when they're going down to where they're celebrating actually, and you were saying how intensely extreme was the word used. They had extreme affection for Radharani, but Radharani is not actually there, right?
No.
At any point.
No, not during the month of their vow. She's not there, but they invite her for the celebration the next day. So she's there when Krishna steals the clothes.
Oh, she is there. Okay.
Yeah.
And where is she? Is she observing? Is she what's her role in all that?
It's not mentioned, but presumably she's in the river she's in Yamuna with all the gopis.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Just that doesn't. Yeah. That feels odd to me.
It feels odd.
Yeah, that she should be with all the unmarried gopis in that same situation with Krishna. It just seems so strange. Okay.
It's an opportunity for her.
Beautiful. And then the last thing, this is more of a comment. When Krishna is saying to them, if you offer me obeisances, in this way, you'll receive everything that you asked me for. I was thinking how that actually relates to that key verse in the Gita, but it's a very Rasic version of that, however you come to me, however you surrender, I reciprocate. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that's the ultimate example of that.
He's surrendered, he's asked them to surrender to him, body, mind, and soul, and he's surrendering to them also. He says, I will give you myself. Because he's reciprocating, because they've given everything to him. He has to. It's not like he's jeering at them from the side. It's very, very deeply affectionate. He's bringing them up. He's lifting them up 1-2 levels.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was more. I don't really have an English word that describes hearing that pastime. Thank you.
You can say it in Yiddish if you like.
Yes. I'll leave that to Tarun. His Yiddish vocabulary is a lot better than mine.
I think I know a total of maybe 15 words, and 10 of them are just rude.
Hey, Tarun, there must be a Yiddish equivalent of being a coconut, but we'll have to discuss that later.
Being a what?
Coconut.
A coconut, okay. Haribol, thank you for your guitar, Maharaj. I was just thinking towards the end, just before we started today, Pujapad Trinandi Maharaj was saying that for these pastimes, we have to develop some appreciation for them as opposed to trying to understand them with our heads. So for this pastime, I completely can't understand it with my head. So I'm just kind of trying to develop some appreciation for yeah. So thank you for speaking so nicely about this pastime that completely goes way over my head, but I appreciate it. So thank you.
Hare Krishna. Now Pujapad Tridandi Maharaj is looking at us with a fixed gaze. But you've stolen his power of speech.
Asked to unmute.
Okay, thank you. It's returned. Thank you, Maharaj. That was absolutely delectable delivery of such an esoteric pastime. I'm afraid to speak that pastime because it's so confidential, but you presented it absolutely beautifully. It was relishable from top to bottom, completely beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
So now Maharaj will be speaking on Vatsavana and Garuda-Govinda.
Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tara Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. So I'm offering all my Dandavat pranams to my beloved Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and also to our beloved Nityalila Pravishta Amasto Tarasarashi Shimat, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams. So yes, after that most intoxicating pastime of Cira-ghata, now we're going to wander away from that place by the Jamuna, and we're going to come inland. We're going to walk along this very dusty road that Tarunji has put on the map here for us. So, and we're going to come to another sort of apparently isolated spot. And this is Vatsavana. Vatsa means calf. So this is the place where Lord Brahma performed the pastime of stealing the calves and the cowherd boys from Krishna. So this is a very wonderful, sweet, exceptional pastime. Thank you, Tarunji. When we reach this part of the 10th canto, this is chapter 13 of the 10th canto. In the 10th canto, there are 90 chapters, and the first 4 are about Mathura. Then the next 34 are about Vrindavan. And there's a gradual sequence of unfolding Krishna's pastimes throughout this 10th canto. And in the up to chapter 20, from chapter 5 to chapter 20, it's all Krishna's Balya Lila and his Poganda Lila, his very baby-like pastimes and his more adult child pastimes. So this particular pastime it's called the Brahma Vimohan. Vimohan means bewilderment. It's when Lord Brahma, he becomes bewildered by Krishna's Maya. He has a desire to bewilder Krishna, but he himself becomes bewildered by his own Maya. So this is a fascinating pastime. Lord Brahma, he was allowed to witness the previous pastime in the previous chapter of the 10th canto. That's the killing of Aghasura. And when Aghasura is killed, the illumination of his soul lingers in the sky until Krishna himself comes out of the mouth of Aghasura. And then that soul of Aghasura goes into the foot of Krishna. And Lord Brahma, he's witnessing this phenomena. He can't understand it, that this soul is entering the body of Krishna. He becomes bewildered. But he becomes bewildered for a reason, because Yogamaya is arranging this completely, because Krishna has a desire. It's a very, very beautiful desire. He's aware of the affection that all the elder gopis have in Vrindavan for him. And whenever they return from cow grazing, all of the gopis, the elder gopis, the mothers, they all rush first to Krishna to hold him, to embrace him momentarily, and then they run to their own sons. But their attention is on Krishna. The principal focus of their hearts is on Krishna. So they have this desire to have Krishna as their child. And they're feeling that Mother Yashoda, she has so much good fortune, but they are deprived of that good fortune of having Krishna as their child. So Krishna wants to make a miraculous arrangement so that he can become the child of all the elder gopis. And simultaneously, the cows are so much attached to Krishna, and they also want to have Krishna as their calf. They also have that feeling of wanting to nurture a calf that is in fact Krishna. They want to have that relationship, especially with Krishna in that area of nurturing their calves as being Krishna. So Krishna, he appreciates these desires. He is aware of these desires. So this pastime is all going to be unfolded to facilitate this remarkable arrangement where the mothers and the cows can receive Krishna as their child and as their calves. So when we come to this chapter 13, then Shukadeva Goswami, he congratulates Parikshit Maharaj at this time. He says, you are called Bhagavan Ottama, Bhagavan Ottama, which means you are the best of devotees because you have so much relish to hearing about these sweet pastimes. And you're so attached to hearing about Krishna. Even though you've probably heard this pastime before, still you want to hear it again and again. So this is the nature of all of these pastimes. We want to hear them all again and again, just like that Dambanda Lila that we hear every single year of Mother Yashoda binding Krishna. How many years would we hear Srila Gurudev speak this pastime? Every single year. For 18, 19 years, we would hear him speak this pastime. And yet it would never actually be exactly the same. There would always be differences. There would always be newer and newer appreciations of it. So similarly, Parikshit Maharaj is having that same feeling of hearing these divine pastimes. So now the situation is that Aghasura in the previous chapter has just been killed by Krishna, which is a remarkable pastime in itself. And Krishna has come out of the stomach of Aghasura. And now they've left Aghasura and they've come to the bank of the beautiful Jamuna. And here they begin to have their picnic, they all take out their picnic baskets and their picnic bags, whatever it is they're carrying. They all have different containers or tiffins for their prasadam, and they all place them on different types of plates. Some they put on stones, some they put on leaves, etc. But it's a very beautiful description in the Bhagavatam of this exchange of their prasadam time. And they're all sitting together with Krishna. And a mystical thing takes place. Srila Gurudev explains how all the thousands, millions of sakhas that are with Krishna, they all think that they are sitting together right in front of Krishna. They all think that Krishna is right in front of them when they're taking their prasadam. And Krishna is joking and they're laughing together. There's so much sweet mood and flavor between them all. And it's described the demigods have witness to, or partial witness to, this pastime. And they are so concerned that they are always making their offerings very carefully and thinking that Krishna will only eat that sacrificial offering that has been offered nicely by the Brahmanas. But here they're seeing that he's even eating a half-eaten samosa from the mouth of Madhumangal, and he'll take it off Madhumangal and eat it himself. Or the other boys, they will offer some half-eaten prasadam to Krishna, and he'll take it with great relish. So all of these rules and regulations about honoring prasadam, etc., are not there in the fullest, sweetest madhurya mood. It's just a mood of complete relish. So when they reach the beautiful sandy banks of the Jamuna, they tether the calves very nicely, and there's plenty of green grass there. And then they go and bathe in the Jamuna to clean themselves from the stomach of Aghasura. But while they're bathing there, Lord Brahma, he comes and he wants to test Krishna's mystic potency. He thinks, of course, at this point, he's illusioned by Yogamaya to thinking that his mystic ability is perhaps greater than Krishna's. So he thinks he will steal the calves, and he wants to see how Krishna will respond. So he comes and he steals the calves, but in fact, they're not the real calves. The real calves are always with Krishna. These are Mayic calves, and he's taking those Mayic calves. The real calves have actually been put into some Yogamaya state so that they're resting. And Lord Brahma is taking these Mayic calves. And then when the cowherd boys, to their astonishment, they suddenly discover, when they've come out of the Jamuna bath and they've had their prasadam, then they suddenly discover that the calves have all wandered off. So Krishna, at that moment, he says, don't worry, you all stay right where you are, and I will myself go very quickly, and I will hunt them out and bring them all back. So the boys are knowing the greatness of their beautiful Kanaya, and they agree to this. On this day, by the way, Balaram isn't present. Balaram has actually stayed behind to perform ceremonies with his mother, Rohini, in the village. So he's not present during this pastime. This is a very important point that I'll elaborate on later. So Balaram is not there to check Krishna from going alone to seek the calves. So Krishna goes, and it's described how he hunts through the mountains, through all the forest. He hunts everywhere for the calves. He's giving this impression to all the devas who are looking on, because of course this pastime is involving Lord Brahma. Therefore the devas have witness to this pastime, because this is Lord Brahma performing this pastime. So Krishna, at that time, he's carrying a little bit of yogurt and rice in his hand while he's wandering around looking for the calves, but he can't find them. Of course, he's understanding what has happened, but he's making it seem as if he is bewildered. And then he comes back to find the cowherd boys, his suckers. And to his astonishment, he finds they've all gone as well. So they've all left and the calves have all left. So Krishna acts as if he's bewildered for a moment, and then he manifests from himself all those same suckers and the same calves. In an instant, he manifests them from his own Shakti. They're all his Vishnu Murti forms. He manifests them all. And all of the cowherd boys, they all have exactly the original characteristics and dress, etc., as they all had previously. There's absolutely no change in their appearance or their emotional makeup or their character. They are all, in fact, those same boys, but they're not. They're Vishnu Murtis. So at this time, my Gurudev describes that Lord Brahma, he then returns to Brahmaloka. And Krishna also, he, for a moment, goes to Brahmaloka and he assumes the form of Lord Brahma. And he tells the devotees in Brahmaloka, oh, there is an imposter wandering around who's pretending to be me, Lord Brahma. Don't let him in the gates. Send him away. Straight away, as soon as you see him, send him away. So Krishna makes this arrangement so that Lord Brahma, he's only going to literally spend a moment in Brahmaloka because of the time difference. The time difference is enormous, of course. Like a moment going to Brahmaloka is in fact a whole year in Vrindavan. So Krishna only wants this pastime to go on for a year. So he makes that arrangement personally for Lord Brahma to be sent away from his own abode. So when Lord Brahma, he returns, and to his astonishment, he sees Krishna is again sitting on the bank with all the cowherd boys and the calves are there. And he's completely astonished because he hid the calves and the boys in a cave. And then he looks with one of his heads towards the cave and he sees that, yes, the boys and the calves are in the cave. And then he looks towards where Krishna is and he sees them there also. And now he becomes completely astonished. And he's really bewildered about what is actually happening here. So then it's described that Krishna, he begins to reveal to Lord Brahma the actual situation. But just before this is actually revealed to Lord Brahma, in the pastimes in Vrindavan for this whole year, Purnamasi Devi, she's declared right at the very beginning of this year when Lord Brahma has stolen the calves, Purnamasi declares that this is the best time for all marriages. All the gopis and the sakas, they must be married at this particular time. This is the best astrological conjunction for them to get married now. So all the young gopis and all the sakas who are in fact Krishna, they all arranged to get married. All of these marriages take place in this 1 year. So Krishna is in fact married to all the gopis because of this situation that Purnamasi has arranged. And during this time, of course, the mothers, when Krishna returns with the cows from the cowherd grazing, then instead of running to Krishna first, they immediately run to their own sons. Now they're so much attracted to their own sons. They've been given Krishna as their own son. And they're in so much ecstasy, they take their son home. They're just filled with this affection, this special affection for their own son. And they bathe their sons, they dress their sons, they decorate them, they feed them sumptuously, etc. And they're having the same feelings of affection for their sons that they have for Krishna, because actually they're non-different, of course. So this is fulfilling their deepest desire to have Krishna as their sons. And it's also described that the cows, when they connect with their calves, they practically are licking their bodies away in affection towards their calves, because they're appreciating that the calf is more dear to them than even Krishna. So they're having this feeling of the greatest satisfaction of having Krishna as their calves. So the mothers and the cows have their deepest desire fulfilled by this remarkable, astonishing pastime when Brahma steals the calves and the cowherd boys. And then a few days before the end of this year's term, where Lord Brahma has stolen them, all the cowherd boys, who are in fact Krishna, are out with the calves, and they're in a valley. And above, the mother cows, they're grazing with their gopa, the elder suckers, the elder gopas. They're taking care of the cows on the top of Govardhan. And these mother cows, they see their 1-year-old calves down in the valley. Now, it's important to appreciate that they're not their newborn calves, but they're 1-year-old calves who are in fact Krishna. And these cows, recklessly, they break free from the binding demands and calls of the gopas, and they just race down the very steep slopes of the of Govardhan Hill to be with their calves, their 1-year-old calves. And the gopas, the cowherd men, they've become very angry that the cows should do such a dangerous thing, because they could break their legs running down so fast on the slope of Govardhan, a very steep embankment, and they just ran down recklessly. And as soon as they came down to the bottom, they immediately went to their 1-year-old calves and began nuzzling them and giving them milk, etc., and licking them and showing so much affection for them. And amazingly, when the irritated and angry cowherd men, when they reached the valley, instead of holding on to their anger, they saw their beautiful sons, who also were Krishna. And they immediately ran to embrace their sons, and they put their sons on their laps, and they began to smell their foreheads, etc. And they embraced them very, very lovingly. And at this time, Balaram, who wasn't present on the day when Lord Brahma stole these cows, he becomes astonished. He's just witnessed this whole incident of the cows breaking free, running down this very dangerous slopes, and not engaging with their youngest calves, but engaging with the 1-year-old calves. And the cowherd men, who were so angry, suddenly becoming pacified in the company of their sons. Now Balaram is thinking, what's going on here? Something strange is going on here. So Krishna, in his omniscience, was beginning to reveal to Balaram what was actually taking place. So gradually, it's described that not immediately Balaram was able to see what was happening, but gradually Krishna is going to take the veils from Balaram's consciousness to let him actually witness what is going on here. And Balaram, he's thinking, are these, is this a trick of the demigods? Or is this some potency by the sages? Or is it some demonic influence that's making this situation this way? What is it that's going on here? He's quite bewildered. And he looks towards his brother, Krishna, who sends him a glance, which opens his consciousness to appreciate the situation to some degree. And then he opens Balaram's mind completely and allows him to witness all the sakas in their Vishnu Murti forms, that they all are all expansions from Krishna. And Balaram is astonished because, of course, Balaram, correctly so, was thinking that these are all eternal parikars of Krishna that have been engaging with us for the last so many years. And now all of a sudden, I'm seeing that they're not. They're actually expansions directly from Krishna. They're all Krishna himself. And he becomes astonished. And he turns to Krishna once he understands this, and he says, why didn't you tell me about this? Because at the same time, Krishna is able to convey to him that this is the mystical workings of Lord Brahma in stealing the cows and the boys, stealing the calves and the boys. So Balaram is now understanding, he's fluent with the pastime, what's happening. And he turns to Krishna and says, why didn't you tell me about this before? A whole year ago, why didn't you tell me this? And Krishna says very simply, because I knew you would miss Sri Ram too much. I knew you wouldn't be able to tolerate the separation of a whole year away from your beloved Sri Ram. But Krishna was also thinking that if he had allowed Balaram to see this pastime unfolding, he would have told Mother Yashoda. He wouldn't have been able to keep it confidential. So Krishna had to keep this completely secret from Balaram. So he keeps it secret from Balaram. So actually, Jiva Goswami describes that after this pastime is concluded, Balaram, he doesn't come out cow grazing for the next 5 days. He's a little bit, unhappy that he wasn't allowed into the confidence of this pastime. So he just stays at home for the next 5 days. And when he finally does come out, Krishna arranges for him to kill the Pralambasura demon, just to get him back into the mood of his personality. So this is a very sweet appreciation. But then when Lord Brahma, he comes back, this is the most astonishing thing. Lord Brahma, he comes back, and now he's witnessing these 2 sets of cowherd boys and these 2 sets of calves. One is in the cave where he's hidden them, and the other is right in front of him on the sandy bank of the Jamuna. And he's totally astonished. And then Krishna lifts the veil from Lord Brahma's eyes and allows him to actually see the situation. And I want to read a little bit here because it's just the writing itself is more beautiful than my trying to say it the same. So then it's described that as Lord Brahma looked on, all the boys took on the color of bluish rain clouds and dressed in silken garments. Lord Brahma standing near the calves and boys, but the boys, they didn't pay any attention to Lord Brahma. They actually considered him just like some demigod. It's actually described that they thought, who is this goat? They call him this word, Aja, which means goat. And then when Lord Brahma, he sees all these Vishnu Murtis, they all have, all of a sudden, 4 arms. They have this blue complexion and yellow garments. And all the boys' chests were marked with the Shrivats, the line of Lakshmi, and armbands and kastuba jewels on their necks and bracelets and ankle bells. And they were all holding the conch, the mace, the disc, and the lotus. They were all in these 4-armed forms. And they all had beautiful helmets and earrings and garlands and sacred belts. And all were extremely beautiful. Every part of their bodies was beautifully decorated. This is what Lord Brahma is seeing. And then many devas were worshipping each individual cowherd boy. And Tulsi was chanting. And these forms had pure smiles, like the increasing light of the moon. This is how their smiles are described. And all creatures from the insects had taken forms and were worshipping each of these Vishnu Murtis forms, each of these Vishnu Murti forms. From the blade of grass to Lord Brahma, all were offering their worship towards these forms. And these forms were surrounded by opulences. All the anima siddha were there, the mystic potency, the 24 elements, the Mahatattva. And Lord Brahma, he saw color. He saw swabhav, his own nature. He saw the sanskars, the reformation. He He saw calm, desire. He saw karma, fruit of activities. He saw the gunas, all taking forms and worshipping each particular Saka. Can we imagine what an utterly astonishing sight that must have been? And it's described that Lord Brahma, seeing all of this, his 11 senses jolted in astonishment, and stunned by transcendental bliss, he became silent. This is the creator, the architect, the manifester of all the planetary systems in this universe. This is a great, great personality. And now his mystic potency, which created all of these planetary systems, has been completely humbled in the presence of this pastime by the Lord. And it's described at this point that he climbs down from his swan carrier and he sets his feet on the planet. The Devas never set their feet on the earth. They always walk above the earth. But now Lord Brahma, in his humbled condition, he places his feet on the earth and he prostrates himself towards Krishna with all his helmets touching Krishna's feet. And he's crying tears profusely and he's begging for his pardon. He understands that he has tried to mess with Krishna's mystical pastimes. When he saw Aghasura enter into Krishna's foot, he thought, I will test the mystic potency of this person with my own mystic potency. And his mystic potency had completely been obliterated by the mystic potency of Krishna, totally and utterly. So Lord Brahma, he's weeping like this. And then all the cowherd boys, they all come back. Lord Brahma, he leaves at that time. After he's offered some prayers, then he leaves. He returns again in the next chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 14, which contains all the beautiful prayers that he's going to offer to Krishna. Very, very beautiful prayers in the 14th chapter. We're now describing the 13th chapter. So when all the boys return and the calves return, Krishna, he suddenly comes back into the presence of all the cowherd boys. And they say to him, oh, you were so quick. You just all of a sudden, you just went and you found the calves and you came back. They had no awareness that a whole year had actually passed. And so when Krishna takes all the cowherd boys and the calves joyfully back into the village of Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys are thinking that we've just been away for one day, but actually they've been away for a whole year. And it's then, after a whole year, that they begin to describe to the residents of Braj the killing of Aghasura, which was done a whole year ago. But the body of Aghasura has remained very fragrantly intact for the whole year and hasn't decomposed at all, because Krishna actually was in the stomach of this Aghasura demon. So this is something of this extraordinary pastime. There's many, many details that the different acharyas describe. Actually, Madhavacharya won't even discuss this pastime. When Madhavacharya writes his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, he omits this chapter completely because Lord Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. And Madhavacharya couldn't bear the thought of Lord Brahma being making him look foolish in this sense, because Lord Brahma does look foolish when he comes up against the incredible mystic potency of Krishna. So we see how much was achieved by this one pastime. All the elder gopis, they all had their heart's desires satisfied to have Krishna as their child for a whole year. And the cows were satisfied having the calves of Krishna for a whole year. So this is an extraordinary, beautiful appreciation of the arrangements that Krishna manifests in Vrindavan in relationship to his increasing the speciality and sweetness of the prem amongst the Brijbasis for himself. All of his pastimes are only orchestrated and arranged for this one singular purpose, to increase the love and beauty and speciality of the Brijbasis for himself. Just like we just heard at Cira-ghata, how did Krishna arrange for those young gopis' hearts to be churned so deeply by Krishna's tricky pastimes? So these are Madhurya Ras Leelas that we hear as we wander through Vrindavan. So we are so fortunate to come to this place of Vatsavana, where this pastime actually took place. And we sit here and we can meditate on the extraordinary nature of this phenomenal pastime, where Krishna, he manifests himself as so many hundreds of thousands of sakhas in his Vishnu Murti form. And we appreciate how Baladev, he wasn't actually witness to that pastime at the beginning, but at the end, he sees it clearly. So there are so many aspects in here of sweetness and speciality that the devotees, of course, can relish forever, as long as we are able to hear these pastimes every year. They become more and more relishable. So this is what was introduced at the beginning of the chapter. Maharaj Parikshit was congratulated for wanting to hear these pastimes so many times. So this is Vatsavana. So now we're going to leave Vatsavana and we're going to climb on our buses.
Can I ask you a question on this before we move on, or do you want to wait until the end?
No, ask ahead, Yashoda.
Yeah.
I love your questions, Yashoda. I'm always happy to go more and more into this Leela. If there's anything.
It's an amazing Leela. The question that jumped out at me was, if Balaram is Sandini Shakti, he's the existence, potency in the spiritual world, then how could he have not known what was going on?
Yoga Maya is capable of any type of arrangement.
Okay.
It's out of the box entirely, but it's a great question, Yashoda. I mean, it's a very, very good question. You know, Balaram's potency, although, let me just elaborate on that. Balaram's potency as Sandini Shakti is, in a sense, unknown to him when he's performing his Sakha pastimes. When he's acting as a cowherd boy, he's not walking around thinking, oh, I am the complete Sandini Shakti and everything is coming from me. I'm totally covered. The same as Krishna with the Sarvagya and Mugdata. He's fully knowledgeable when necessary, but he's also in full ignorance of his great omniscience. Yeah. This is a very nice consideration, because when the Pralambasura demon is running away with Balaram on his shoulders, Balaram becomes confused and he looks to Krishna. What should I do? This is a demon. And Krishna shoots him a glance to wake up his omniscience. And then Balaram realizes, oh yes, I am like God, and he punches this huge demon. But he has to be ignited with that consciousness.
Beautiful, beautiful. When you were reading, what were you reading from? The Parikrama book?
No, my notes actually. No, I was reading from principally the 10th canto with the explanation by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Ananda Vrindavan Champu and Srila Jiva Goswami. These three books describe this beautiful pastime. That's why there are so many details in it.
The thing that struck me is, if Lord Brahma can pay obeisances like that and repent like that, it should be of no consideration for someone so infinitesimal as myself.
But we're in ignorance. We're in deep ignorance. That's what restricts us. We have this obstacle of avidya. So we don't even realize our insignificance. When the avidya is purified, then we begin to realize our insignificance. That's when we start to really make tracks in our devotional journey towards Krishna.
Maharaj, you started out the pastime by explaining how the mothers and also the cows, they favored, well, the mothers favored Krishna over their own boys.
Yes, their own
and
sons.
Therefore, this is all about Krishna satisfying that desire. So once everything goes back to normal again, and all the original gopas and cows are
Then
back.
again, the mothers are running back to Krishna.
So it all
Again, they're
happens
running to
again.
Krishna. Yes, yes, yes. They can't leave Krishna. Krishna is the focal point. It's only about Krishna. If Krishna is not
Some
directly...
separation comes in there, some separation.
No, they've already had such a desire satisfied, Yashoda, by
Okay.
Krishna having that mercy on them for a whole 12 months. 12 months is a long time. How many days are in 12 months?
Mm.
Yashoda, how many days are in 12 months? 365 days?
365 or 360, depending on which
Yes,
calendar.
so 360 times they're able to bathe him, Krishna,
Yeah.
directly, to feed
Wow.
him directly, to massage him with oil directly. This is quite a lengthy association with Krishna directly. It's enough to satisfy that desire. And the same for the cows.
Maharaj, is there a link? You know, when you said how Lord Brahma returns and Purnamasi declared it's the best time for marriages, and the Gopas and Sakis had got married, etc., etc. Is there any link between that, the timing of that, and the previous pastime that we heard from Nemi Maharaj?
Oh, in connection with the young gopis
Yeah, because they
marrying Krishna.
Yeah,
Yes, that would have been at that time when they were all going to be betrothed. You understand betrothal, I mean, they were all like 6 or 7 years old, and they were all just arranging their betrothals. It wasn't that they were actually moving in with each other or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
So the young goat, but the those ones who perform the Katyayani Brat, when they associate finally in the Ras Leela, it's not as if they're married, they're in a Parikrama mood. They're in an unmarried mood to enjoy the Ras Leela with Krishna. They're the unmarried gopis who enjoy with. The other gopis are in Parikrama mood because they already have husbands. But these younger gopis, they are in, they're described as the unmarried gopis.
Well, actually, they don't get married, do they? They wanted a Gandharva marriage, but anyhow, the pastime.
Yes, correct. That's it.
And you said something very, very beautiful about something about the calves almost licking the cows almost licking the calves. You didn't use the word backwards, but it was a special. I couldn't quite.
They couldn't stop licking the calves. They were just like it was just so relishable for the mothers to lick the. It's described that they licked them again and again, and they gave them endless milk for a whole year.
Endless milk. Wow. Beautiful. Final question, Marge. Sorry, I was a bit slow at the beginning. I didn't quite understand just how the bit about Lord Brahma going back to Krishna going to Brahmaloka and telling them there's an imposter.
Krishna had to mystically jump back to Brahmaloka to make sure, to ensure that Lord Brahma wasn't going to reach Brahmaloka and sit down, sort of, rest for a few minutes and then come back. He wanted to ensure that Lord Brahma would immediately come back. And that would be literally a moment for Lord Brahma, which would constitute, otherwise it would be way too long. It would be 10 or 15 years, before the pastime could be revealed. So it had to be instant. So Gurudev actually reveals this. This isn't spoken anywhere else except from Srila Gurudev.
But Krishna goes to Brahmaloka.
Brahmaloka for a moment.
For a moment.
And impersonates Lord Brahma and tells all the.
Lord Brahma go back there?
He did, but Krishna got there before him. And when Lord Brahma.
So they didn't let him in.
Right, they didn't let him in, so he had to come straight back.
That's brilliant. Okay.
That's why it was only a moment.
That was brilliant. So no wonder he was bewildered. He couldn't even get back into his own home.
Right. That already started to sort of shock him from the very beginning. He became uncertain about his potency then.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Beautiful immersion.
Okay, so now, Jiva Pavana, you have something? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. we understand that the mothers and the cows of the calves, they experience the seeing their children directly as Krishna. They got the same feelings of Krishna. Yet at the end of the pastime, Krishna reveals a Vishnu-murti forms. So why
well, Krishnamurti and Krishna are non-different in this sense. I mean, Krishna and the Sakhas, they're manifested as his Vishnu-murti forms, but they are non-different to Krishna simultaneously. They are Krishna simultaneously. They're not completely Krishna, because how can somebody be completely Krishna? But they're expansions of Krishna.
Well,
They are expansions of Krishna in his complete form. Yes, I correct myself there. They are complete expansions of Krishna. Otherwise, the mothers would not have been satisfied unless it was directly Krishna.
so maybe if you can correct me, because I had a speculation, but I wasn't sure. So, when Krishna expands himself with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, it's directly.
He doesn't. Oh yeah, he's not expanding himself. He's running very, very fast.
Oh, so this is different that you're saying in this Leela it's not
Expanding himself.
Oh, okay. Because I thought it was like relative to the rasa that Brahma didn't have Vatsalya rasa, so he had to be shown a Vishnu form to realize what Krishna had done. But anyway, I always wondered, because it was like, the Vishnu-murti, especially the way it's described, is completely emphasizing the Aishwarya opulence.
Yes. Well, that's the form that Krishna revealed to Lord Brahma. He had to reveal such a splendid manifestation just to really jolt Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma wouldn't have appreciated, because I omitted one part. Thank you, Jiva Pavana. At the very end of this pastime, it's revealed that Krishna then, just for a very brief moment, reveals to Lord Brahma Brajendranandan Syama-kunda, his actual Vrindavan form. And he actually reveals to Lord Brahma, just for a moment, the beauty and splendor of Vrindavan when he's present there. Otherwise, Lord Brahma doesn't see this. Doesn't have the adhikar to see Goloka Vrindavan. The Ishtadev of Lord Brahma is Garvadakshay Vishnu. This is the Ishtadev of Lord Brahma. This is why Krishna is crafting this vision for him to see according to his adhikar. He has to see Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not as Brajendranandan Syama-kunda. That's not who he sees. That's why this elaborate description by Shukadev of all the Vishnu Murtis and the elements worshipping, and it's just what I described. It's very, very astonishing and brilliant. But at the very end of this pastime, then it's described that just for a moment, Krishna revealed his actual Vrindavan personality, Brajendranandan Syama-kunda, for Lord Brahma just to appreciate. Because how can Lord Brahma, who's fully encased in Aishwarya mood, how could he think that this little boy was actually that supreme person? You can't go across that adhikar, into the Madhurya, like we were describing at Bailvan yesterday, when I described about Uddhav. Even though he was with the gopis, he can't leap across that chasm to enter into Madhurya vision. He's always going to think of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma was of that mood, and that's why Krishna revealed the Vishnu-murti forms. But Krishna gave him exceptional mercy right at the very, very, very end. I was going to miss it out, Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and you've made me
the point actually reconciles my question perfectly, because the concept of the relative nature of the relationships with Krishna and Brahma. So even though he expanded himself because of their Samashwarya, the residents of Vrindavan, their sweetness overcame that, and they simply related to him as Krishna himself, whereas Brahma was not of the same. So that resolves my question perfectly. Thank you, Maharaj.
Dandavat Shiva
Thank you. Thank you.
Dandavat
I don't know if
Shiva.
I expressed my question perfectly, but in my mind,
No,
it resolves.
no, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So many points there. So many points.
Just as a finale, before you move on, I just worked out Lord Brahma notionally went back to Brahma Loka for 200,000th of a second in order to come back for 1 year.
That's it.
Brahma.
That's it, Yashoda. This is what Gurudev
It wasn't
explained.
even a second, it was 200,000ths of a second.
Yes, phenomenal, amazing, amazing. I'm actually right behind Tarun, so I've got to keep going. I'm like over my time. I've got to get to Garuda-Govinda.
Actually, these questions didn't count as part of your time, so don't stress.
Oh, okay, great.
I thought
Okay,
it
great.
counted as double, no?
Hey, get your shoulder off the line. Mute him up.
I'm muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Yashoda. You've actually overgone your time today, so.
Someone else had a question about Lord Brahma. I saw there. If I've got a little extra time while we're on the subject, somebody offered a question.
Do you want to answer?
All these, well, any question is, if it's going to be more revealing to the pastime, then if I can answer it or think about it, that would be, that's how we go forward in appreciating the Leelas, is by hearing the questions that may come. What is the question, Tarun?
I'll read it out, and then there's another question.
One of them.
If Brahma has no adhikar to see Krishna, how is he first acharya in our sampradaya, and how has he given Sri Brahma Samhita from Krishna Premavati Didi?
Because he understands that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. In his prayers, in the next chapter, in the 14th chapter, he begins to describe Krishna as that supreme Lord. Anadi Adi Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. This is how the Brahma Samhita begins, this glorification of the greatness of Krishna. Simultaneously, he's mentioning that Krishna is a cowherd boy, because now he's witnessed it momentarily. But just momentarily, by Krishna's great mercy, he's witnessing this form. But the Ishtadev, there is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Now we also know, just to add to the mix here, is that Lord Brahma, in this birth of Lord Brahma, he's a pure devotee and will go back to Godhead at the end of his birth. But which location will he go to? I'm not sure. So that's all I'm going to say. There was another question. My battery's running a little low on the phone. So
the other question is, we hear that the reason Krishna was more forgiving to Indra than he was to Brahma when Indra tried to destroy Braj is because Indra's actions actually brought all the Brajvasis together and enabled a meeting between Krishna and the gopis, whereas Brahma's actions separated Krishna from his friends and disrupted his pastimes. But Brahma's actions led to Krishna being able to marry all the gopis while disguised as cowherd boys. So didn't Brahma's actions also increase Krishna's meeting with the gopis?
yes, ultimately they did. They did. I haven't heard that he was more merciful to Indra than he was to Lord Brahma. Indra is a lower deva, and Lord Brahma is he's the manifester of this universe. So Lord Brahma has a higher adhikar than Indra. So for this mercy on Lord Brahma, this is a wonderful pastime of the glories actually of Lord Brahma. It brings out his personality also, even though it's considered an offense. But it was Yoga Maya in his heart that instigated the whole pastime. She's the one that prompted him to test his mystic potency. So it wasn't like an independent desire, but Lord Brahma went along with it. If there would have been the choice when he need not have actually performed that pastime, but yet he went along with Yoga Maya's arrangement because it was the Lord's arrangement. It was all in service. Okay, Tarunji, if I can just move on to Garuda-Govinda, otherwise we're going to be late home. So now we get back in our buses and we drive to our final destination today, which is along this country road next to the Jamuna, and we come to Garuda-Govinda. And here is a very beautiful pastime where Krishna, he's playing with the sakas, and in part of one of the games, then Krishna mounts Sridham Saka. He gets on his back and he pretends to be Lord Narayan. He's demonstrating the affection he has for his eternal carrier of Garud. And he climbs on the back of Sridham, and they're playing in that way. So here we remember this pastime of Sridham taking the form of Garuda. So here in this place, we have a beautiful Murti form of Garuda, and we remember this personality. Garuda, he comes into a number of personalities, like in the Kaliya Krida pastime. He's the one who put the immortal nectar on the tree. And he's the one who was responsible for Kaliya even being in the Kaliya Krida, because Kaliya was fleeing from Garuda. And there's also another pastime here in Ram Leela. In Ram Leela, we know that the son of Ravan, Meghanath, he binds at one time Ram in ropes of a serpent. And Narad immediately tells Garuda he should come. And as soon as Garuda comes to Ram's rescue, all the serpents flee. And then at this point, Garud has a doubt that is this really the supreme personality of Godhead? Is Ram the supreme Lord? So he has this doubt, but he hears from the great Mahant called Kakabusandi, who is the brother of Jatayu in Ram Leela. And Kakabusandi, he reveals the great glories of Lord Ram. And at this time also, Krishna, he reveals his form to Garud, and climbs on his back right here in this very same place. Krishna climbs on the back of Garuda just to give confirmation to Garuda of his eternal identity as Ram, because he had this doubt about Ram. So that's the pastime we hear at Garuda-Govinda, which is a very brief pastime because it's right at the very end of the day. And then we head back for Vrindavan. So Garuda-Govinda ki jai.
Haribol. Thank you, Maharaj.
Tarun, yeah, I just have to go for one moment. I'll be right back. Give me 2 minutes, okay?
Okay.
I'll just take myself.
Continue with the. Yeah, I'm just gonna continue, and if anything is relevant, Maharaj will reappear post Kirtan. So we've come to the end of the day. Beautiful day. I think especially everyone was touched by this last Leela that Maharaj shared, because there were so many questions, and I know Maharaj really appreciates these questions. So if people have more questions in the future, don't hesitate to send them to me, put your hand up, whatever. It's a pleasure to be able to ask them and have that engagement. I know he really appreciates this engagement. So I just want to thank Pujapad Tridandi Maharaj, Pujapad Nemi Maharaj for organizing and speaking for this morning Parikrama. So thank you so much to both of them. And thank you to all organizers, all listeners, participants, especially Janardhan Prabhu, who is making these beautiful videos for us every day, helping us to be absorbed in in Vrindavan, and to all the kirtaniers. Speaking of which, we're now going to have a beautiful kirtan from Shriman Manas Prabhu. And I need to make sure I've got all of these up because he sent me 5 different screenshots. That
Before you go on, just a big thank you to you too for your beautiful emceeing, your sincerity, your seva, and your engagement. Thank you so much. Haribol.
Thank you. Everything is possible by the mercy of my Gurudev. Haribol. Okay, I'm gonna unmute you, Manas Prabhu. Let's tell you.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Haribol. Dandavat Pranam, Radhe Radhe. Dandavat Pranam, Maharaj Ji. Okay, my voice is coming clear. राधे मेरी स्वामिनी और मैं राधे तेरो दास, जन्म जन्म मोहे जियो श्री वृंदावन को वास। So this is Govinda Damodar Stotram. I'm gonna sing. Kararavindeन Padarvindam Mukharavinde Viniveshayantam Vatasya Patrasya Vatasya Patrasya Puteshayanam Balam Mukunda Manasa Smarami Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare He Nath Narayan Vasudeva Jivhe Pivasva Amritamita Deva. This verse is not in here, Prabhu. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Vikretu Kama Kila Gopakanya Vikretu Kama Kila Gopakanya Murari Padar Pit Chita Vritti Murari Padar Pit Chita Vritti Dadyadikam Mohavashad Vochad Dadyadikam Mohavashad Vochad Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Grahe grahe gopavadhu kadambaha, grahe grahe gopavadhu kadambaha. Sarve militva samavapayogam, sarve militva sarvapayogam, punyani namane pathanti nityam, punyani namane pathanti nityam. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Sukham Shayanam Nilaye Nijepi, Sukham Shayanam Nilaye Nijepi, Namami Vishnu Pravadanti Matyaha, Namami Vishnu Pravadanti Matyaha. Teneshchitam tanmayajam vrajanti, teneshchitam tanmayajam vrajanti. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Jivhe sadaivam bhaj sundara, jivhe sadaivam bhaj sundarani. Namami Krishnasya manoharani, Namami Krishnasya manoharani, Samasta bhaktarti vinashanani, Samasta bhaktarti vinashanani. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Sukhavasane, Sukhavasane dameva saram, Sukhavasane dameva saram, Dukhavasane idameva gneham, Dukhavasane idameva gneham. Dehavasane idameva japyam, Dehavasane idameva japyam. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Shri Krishna Radhavara Gokulesha Gopala, Govardhana Nath Vishnu, Shri Krishna Radhavara Gokulesha Gopala, Govardhana Nath Vishnu. Jibhe piva swamritamit deva, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. त्वमेव याचे मम हे विजीवे त्वमेव याचे मम हे विजीवे समागते दंड धारे कृतान्ते वक्तव्यमेवं मधुरा सुभक्त्या वक्तव्यमेवं मधुरं सुभक्त्या गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति जिह्वे रसाग्ये मधुरा प्रिये त्वम् जिह्वे रसाग्ये मधुरा प्रिये त्वम् सत्यं हितं त्वं परमं वदामि सत्यं हितं त्वं परमं वदामि अवर्ण्ययेथा मधुराक्षराणि अवर्ण्ययेथा मधुराक्षराणि गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति 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 गोविन्द गोपाल गोविन्द गोपाल गोविन्द गोपाल गोविन्द गोविन्द गोपाल गोविन्द गोपाल गोविन्द गोविन्द गोपाल 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 गुरुदेव 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम वृंदावन धाम वृंदावन गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल धन्यवाद
Very well. Thank you.
I wanted to thank you, Manas Prabhu. Such beautiful, heart-rendering, immersive kirtan.
Thank you,
I'm
Prabhu.
so happy to connect with you and that we all have your wonderful benediction through your mellifluous voice. Thank you so much.
Just give me blessings, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Vancha kalpa churiyascha kripa sindhu bhaevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai.